Welcome to What Healthy Couples Know That You Don't, a podcast dedicated to helping you create the relationship you truly want.
Elevating love, how growth, responsibility, and purpose strengthen bonds. Growth in love requires openness to change, the willingness to challenge old patterns, and the courage to embrace transformation in the pursuit of something greater. It is the conscious effort to evolve together that truly sustains a relationship. Relationships flourish when both partners take accountability seriously, and that is something really grown up because people don't do it. Taking responsibility means showing up consistently, practicing emotional maturity, and working through challenges instead of avoiding them. Purpose gives love direction, making challenges feel more like stepping stones rather than roadblocks. I was intrigued by the subtitle of the book by the author we're interviewing today, Soulful Marriage. And the subtitle is Healing Your Relationship with Responsibility, Growth, Priority, and Purpose. I love that she put those four things together: responsibility, growth, priority, and purpose. It really captures the work of relationships that can stand the test of decades together. When growth, priorities, responsibility, and purpose are in alignment, love transforms from something fleeting into something with a stronger foundation. It becomes a partnership where both individuals are encouraged to thrive rather than one person dimming their light or hiding it under a barrel for the other. It creates a more exciting relationship where both partners feel seen, supported, and challenged to be their best selves. Achieving this level of love requires continuous effort and self-awareness. Self-awareness is not easy to embrace. As Susan Sarandon says in the movie Bull Durham, the curse of self-awareness. I would be so bold to add the curse and the blessing of self-awareness. It takes work to open your eyes and claim your own dark side. It means checking in regularly to ensure that priorities remain aligned, taking responsibility for one's bad behavior, and ensuring that both individuals are still growing. It also requires a willingness to redefine the relationship over time. Love that grows is love that lasts, and healthy couples who understand this embrace change instead of fearing it. My guest who wrote the new book, Soulful Marriage, is Dr. Rachel Glick. Rachel Glick is a licensed professional counselor with 30 years as couples and individual therapist in private practice. Since 2014, she has been a regular feature on the Fox 2 a.m. show in St. Louis as a relationship and mental health expert. Rachel is a featured author for Mind, Body, Green, an online magazine reaching over 10 million readers each month. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I also loved how you began your intro by saying what matters most in your relationship is how you feel in your relationship. The APA, the American Psychological Association, estimates that the probability of a first marriage ending in divorce is 41% in 2024. Clearly, how partners are feeling is super important. What are the ways people struggle in not feeling good in their relationships, Rachel?
Wonderful question. I find many of them don't feel appreciated and accepted for who they are, that whatever they do is just not enough. Some feel really stuck and isolated and frustrated because the things that they want to have change in the relationship, there's no change. The partner, they don't feel heard for what is really important to them. Some feel blamed for the problems in the relationship. Some feel betrayed and devastated by some sort of trauma, a betrayal of some kind. Some are feeling disconnected and empty, like a hollow feeling. And some, are feeling not good about themselves, that they don't feel valued and respected as like the go-to person.
I think you described that really well. I think that I often say respect is more important than love. because I think it shows that you are able to be influenced by the other person, and there's a sharing of power. And I think that that's pretty important stuff.
Yes. Well, and the really respecting someone, as I see it, is you see the kind of their essence, you see the value of who they are as an individual. And so then the love grows from the holiness that you see in one another, and not just like, what have you done for me lately kind of thing.
Yeah, that's true. Let's take a look at the first pillar, responsibility. Anyone's happiness is indeed in their own hands, not their partner's. Please tell my audience how self awareness is an important beginning to responsibility and how it impacts our relationships.
Yeah, so this pillar, my husband and I learned firsthand that, and we are each responsible for our own happiness and well-being. And so when we aren't really investing in our own self-awareness, and if we don't have the gift of insight, which some people
Yes,
don't
that's
have,
right.
and that's never something to be taken for granted if you have the gift of insight, self-reflection. But the more that we know ourselves, the more that we're able to show up in the relationship where we're not unconsciously maybe bleeding out some of the things that's bothering us and trying to get it filled in ways that are not as constructive. And so an example of that would be, let's say that we are not feeling good about ourselves. So then we start getting really irritated with our husband or wife or partner for them not being kind enough or not showing enough affection or not showing enough love. And if you aren't aware that at the core, maybe I'm not feeling good about myself and I'm not treating myself well, then you're going to blame and you're going to externalize and make it all about them. And once you start becoming aware, then you can start having more control over your own emotions, your own well-being, and then you can not expect your partner to fill all that emptiness that you're feeling. And yeah, so and I have some other thoughts about self-awareness. Okay, the other thing that's really powerful about self-awareness is that you can live authentically.
I agree.
And you can't it's the beginning. Like, you can't accept what you haven't gotten to know, so that you can live with more self-acceptance. And then you also can't really live in line with what you know is going to light your fire if you aren't aware of yourself.
That's right. Yeah, I completely agree. I think self-awareness is so crucial to growth, just growth in general. And you have so much more substance in a relationship when you can say, I know I did X, Y, Z, and I contributed to this problem. And I just see so many people using blame that I consider an immature activity that brings us a lot of comfort, you know? It does, doesn't it? Yes,
Temporary,
absolutely.
but it doesn't feel good inside. We end up actually feeling more hollow
Yes.
when we are blaming or when we're reactive like that. Yes, it takes a lot of maturity to be self-aware. We're all growing up, I think. I'm still working on growing up.
Absolutely. I use,
Yeah.
I think, I'm trying to remember, I think it's Laura Pearls who said, maturity is growing up is honestly paying close attention to painful situations, honest attention to painful situations. And I think that beginning of painfulness, when we're kids, we kind of point at other people and, it's not me, it was the teacher's fault. And so that growing up is really kind of embracing your own dark side and being able to, because then when you know it, you can make it smaller.
Yeah, totally. It's true. It's a paradox because we can be afraid of it, but once we really are honest with what we're feeling and what are going against inclination to suppress it or distract or avoid, then it gets smaller. It's more manageable. And then we're connecting with ourselves, which can be part of what already starts to make us feel better. And I love the word that you just said, painfulness. And it's a powerful tool to make friends with pain. And it sounds like a bad thing, like like life is about joy, right? But because then, like you kind of were saying something like this a minute ago, but because when we can really embrace our pain and be able to see that we have the strength to tolerate it, then it's empowering, and then we can then connect with the version of ourselves that is more of our higher self or our true self, and not the less mature part of us that is more reactive to the outside environment.
I also think it helps to think about short-term thinking and long-term thinking, because avoiding pain is really a
Mhm.
short-term thing. And
Exactly.
not avoiding pain is you commit because you know that long-term the benefits will be there. But that's a hard thing to sell sometimes to people.
And to
Yes,
ourselves. It's
yes, and
totally
to
hard.
ourselves. Yes.
Yes. And this is something that, the word like temporary pain is one of the, it's just I like the word
Oh, that
temporary.
is
It just is good,
helpful.
like, yes. And I learned this, in studying the wisdom of Kabbalah, there's a lot of that we learn. It's very practical, but there's a lot of learning to understand the two systems that are part of who we make up who we are. There is that system in us that is reactive, that wants the quick fix, but then we have this deeper, longer range, bigger picture, endless part of us that has more strength in order to, like at a higher level thinking system that we have. And so it's a tool that I remember learning in my studies that I use it with my clients because it's so overlapping with therapeutic tools, is to just keep reminding that it's temporary. This is
And I think a lot about, I'm not sure about the Kabbalah, you can tell me, but I think a lot about duality. So pain and joy are linked. And if the more we can embrace, because I'm leaving my insurance part of my business right now, and I'm trying to give people
cool.
some wisdom before I go. And it's about really, though, duality. And the more you can shuttle back and forth between the pain and the joy, or acceptance and anger, the more you can do that shuttling. Is that in the Kabbalah? Because I actually,
It's absolutely. In
excellent.
fact, it's so much so that the two are one.
Ah, yes.
That really that any great revelation or new level, or if you see it in history, it comes from a challenge, from a problem, a confusion, something where it's concealed and it hasn't, like a seed goes in the ground and it's in the dirt. It has to go in the dirt where you can't see for something to bloom. So you have to use the power of mind over matter to not fall too much into the five senses of seeing something as bad when it's happening, and use the free will to trust the system, the friendly universe that we're in, that ultimately in the greatest pain can become the greatest joy. And it's a reframe of looking at pain as discomfort and as effort.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
it's not to dismiss. And we're not talking about, God forbid, horrific, traumas and experiences. Like, that's a whole nother conversation. But the emotional pain we experience, the physical pain we experience, the not, things not going the way we wanted, feeling rejected, feeling afraid about our finances, or not feeling a sense of purpose, or feeling like you're going to be, something's going to, your children aren't going to be doing what you wish they would do. There's just so many painful things we can experience in life, and some of them very deep. But ultimately, the more you lean into looking for the revelation of how this is to help me in some way, in some beneficial way, to learn a lesson, to put something into balance in my life that needed to be put into balance, to put me in a different direction that is going to be more actually fulfilling and more in line with my soul.
And there's something about being able to recognize that being uncomfortable, whether you're conflicting with a partner because you disagree, but it's authentic disagreement and you do it respectfully, that the two of you will grow and know each other more deeply, as opposed to a superficial, let's be quiet about disagreement and go along to get along. And so that polarity of comfort, and I just think we're a little addicted to comfort.
Absolutely. And that's our primary conflict, because there's a part of us that wants more blessings, more goodness, more joy. But there's a part of us that wants comfortable, and those two can't get along.
That's
Like, so,
right.
it's about going out of our comfort zone. So it really is about getting more comfortable with discomfort and reframing it and learning more tools, and to believe in oneself that we have the strength to be uncomfortable and to start building a sense of trust. And in a relationship, this is even just like, I think it was a couple months ago, my husband and I encountered a day where we triggered each other. And it doesn't happen as frequently after all these decades together, but it happens because we're still working on our growing up. We're still evolving. That's the good news. But we were aware from 20 years of studying with the Kabbalah Center and other things too, like therapy and different things, that that we've trusted that there must be something better to reveal itself in our relationship by what it is that we're struggling with today. And it took till I think it was 2:00 in the afternoon till we actually could really talk to each other, because I was not ready yet. I was still blaming him. I knew I was doing it, I was watching myself do it, but I wasn't capable yet to get out of that. And so in a relationship, and bringing it back to trust, in those moments, to acknowledge that it's temporary requires a trust. That life is supporting us, that there is something good that is that good is the default momentum, especially when you lean in. And then also to trust that the relationship needs this. It's not a bad sign about the relationship. The relationship needs this to keep connecting to the life force that we have together and to be creative. And we build trust with each other more when we see we can navigate. I always say to my clients, and I wrote it in the book too, like, I want you to get to a place where you can talk about anything.
I'm going to make a little bit of a leap. I'm even thinking about how we tell people in therapy to trust the process, and all empires have to hit a big decline. And maybe America is going through a lot of chaos right now. But if we trust that process and we're incredibly uncomfortable, maybe we'll come out of it deciding what really matters and what is valuable. But it's going to be painful along the way. And I really do think that could be true. It's another way to think about it.
Well, the universal principles are like, just like as above, so below, or what we know about, like when I meet with couples, it doesn't matter what their worldview is. I try to learn what it is, but it's all the same. It could be from a scientific perspective. It's the same principles. It could be environmental. It could be humanism. It could be your religion. It could be your spirituality. But these universal truths that if trusting the process applies to one area, it's going to apply to every area. But there are certain areas that are a lot harder, that are testing us a lot more, and we are in the midst of that. And that's because there's that much revelation of transformation that is brewing. We have to change.
Chaos comes from change. Yeah. I mean, change comes from chaos, but it can lead to something better. Yeah. Yeah.
Especially when we have the gift of being able to be exposed to seeing it that way and invest in seeing it that way, which means taking responsibility. It's so easy to, be upset and complain about what's happening. But I'll be honest, the book started years ago. But when I really said, I'm not going to listen to any of the voices anymore that are giving me excuses or that have fears about it, or I need to do it, which is really what happened on October 7th. And I was like, because I believe, what I've learned is that it's quantum, like each of us doing our part to reveal what we came here to do and what touches us, and with our gifts and with our kindness and with what our personal, individual styles are. Us doing more to create more goodness in the world will affect the whole world.
I believe that. I really do.
So I try to help people, because a lot of the sessions, especially lately, is trying to help people who are in despair over some things that are going on in the world.
That's why I brought it up.
And so, yeah, exactly. And it's valid. And we have to, we are suffering by watching the suffering and being part of the suffering on some level. But I think the antidote, or the proactive response, is to really bring your back to yourself. What is it that that you can do to keep growing as a person? What is it that that you could be doing to stretch yourself more, to reach more people in some way, to help improve their life and to bring more unity? And that's what's going to bring us to be more in common. And this is because I'm constantly being fed by the consciousness of a very elevated consciousness of our spiritual path. And I rely on that because it's hard otherwise.
So we're talking about your second pillar. We started talking about that, which is growth. Tell us more about that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So growth is usually when most couples are coming to see me in counseling, and it's because they're having conflict and friction or disconnection. And so this pillar is we use our friction to grow individually and closer together. So it's being very intentional and deliberate, and it's a reframe of how you view friction. It's to see it as, oh, it's because we're being called to grow, which is I believe, what resonates with me is it's the purpose of coming together. It's the love that comes from helping each other become the best version of yourself is an exponential kind of love. It's very deep and contagious. And so this section has like the most chapters in the book. There's, I think, 8 out of 21 chapters, or 9, maybe even 11. I can't remember, but I know it's like, I think from chapter 6 to maybe up to 14 or 18, whatever. But it ranges anywhere from reframing your view of friction and learning what are the problems, what are the things that tend to trigger problems with couples. And for that, it came to me one day, it was given to me as a gift, was like a wheel with 8 different spokes, which are the different facets of a modern day relationship. And it's a way to sort of assess where do we feel connected and where are we having some troubles, anywhere from your domestic relationship to your recreational, to your emotional, to your sexual, to your parenting, whatever, different facets. And then from there, it's really learning how to be a healthy, compassionate listener and communicator. And I choose listener before communicator because we think communicating is telling people what's on our mind. But most important part of communication is, I believe, listening and really learning how to be a good listener. And so that there's a lot about that, because in order to navigate the friction, communication isn't enough, but you can't get anywhere without good communication.
And that helps understanding. Good communication really leads to deeper understanding, which is about the depth you're talking about in building relationships.
Yes. And when you understand, I love that word. It's such a plain speaking word, but says it all. To really understand yourself and your partner, it first of all takes a lot of the judging, the contempt,
criticalness,
the kind of, yes, we start really, and because we have a part of us that can become really nasty really quickly. It's just human. But when we start to understand someone else and understand what's going on between us, then it really, you open your heart more. And then you feel much more in control. Like eventually when my husband and I did have the conversation at about 2:00 in the afternoon on a Sunday, I understood, because he opened up, that he learned this from his father. And his father is like everything to him. And so he kept thinking he needed to do it the way his father did it. And it just wasn't working for our relationship. And so, but once I understood that, then it just softened me so much.
And it is about the softening the hard edges of the differences. My therapist said couples need to have 25 to 50 conversations about big, important topics. And so that, because that's the softening of those edges of the differences. And I just think and I don't hear people use that word very often. So I love that you said that,
Yeah, so much can come through in one word.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. And then from there, you still need to navigate it, like what we did at least, is once we understood, it's not enough, but it's such a huge percentage of the work. And then it was like, okay, so, I could ask him, so are you willing to make some adjustments, even though it wasn't the way you were taught and it's not natural for you? And he was like, absolutely. So, and it's still an ongoing thing, this difference between us, but it's, and we're prepared for that. But, it's seeing small changes can go a long way.
I agree. I do. And so we've already started talking about conflict, that it's traditionally viewed as negative. And could you say any more about reframing friction positively? Is there anything else you want to add? Because I just think that's such an important point.
Yes. Well, I think it comes from a very deep teaching that I have learned through my studies, which is that we are here to be the creator ourselves. And I'll try to make it very practical, because it is practical, but it comes from very deep teachings and universal ones, that we are, it's not fulfilling unless we are invested in being the creator in something. We think we want something for free, but it just doesn't taste sweet for very long. So conflict is the necessary gift, the opposition that we need in order to awaken our free will, to choose who we want to be, to create our life experience, to help peel away the layers of that which we are not, and allow us to reveal our potential that is so far, vastly far from what we typically understand about ourselves. And so every step of the way, when we embrace the conflict as, oh, I need this opposition, it's here to show me something. We can't do it without having something push against us for us to see where we need to evolve, where we're limiting ourselves. And then we are constantly involved in a creative process. And we become the creator of our life and the creator of our happiness and fulfillment.
And there's so many ways to be creative. And sometimes I think people just sit in front of the television because they're tired, they gave their all at work, the kids are exhausting, whatever is going on. But there's something about opening that door of creativity, and there's a million ways to go about it, that I think is so important that we lose track of it, though.
Yes, we really do. And so, in this section of growth, it's really about embracing effort. Similar to painfulness, as we were talking earlier, is really making friends with effort. It's not going to be fulfilling. There's no, we didn't make up these rules, but when we understand them, we can have so much more control over our lives. But at the soul level, we asked for it. We wanted to be the creator. We wanted the fulfillment that comes with that, to really put true happiness. And so this kind of creativity is also connected to the next pillar, if that's okay if I segue into that, which is that, we get, I call it like relationship laziness. We get lazy, I want to make friends with that word so it's not sounds like a critical word. It's just a reality that we do. We want comfort. And it's hard. It's hard to put in effort. It's hard when we're tired. It's hard, especially at certain stages of life when we have young kids. That's often when the damage starts happening. No offense to the children. But the creativity often gets neglected for how we can keep investing in our partnership and in our partner. So that also is part of why we need to put in effort. We can kind of, like, a lot of people will say, well, shouldn't it just be organic? I demystify so many of these myths that, whether it's about their sexuality together or whatever they're dealing with, or they're having some like aversion to each other for what, or they're disconnected and want to get reconnected, and they think this is something wrong. No, this is natural. It's organic, actually, that we actually need to get to a place where we are choosing it, where we discover what we have inside of ourselves that we didn't realize we had, that we can actually create it. And that's what makes it lasting. And what makes it also exciting and interesting together, like it keeps the energy flowing.
Yes, I agree with you about that. I think when people are more connected with each other and with themselves, which we've been talking about both, and then you get more connected with what's important to you and what makes life worth living to you and what makes the relationship worth having. It's very important. Tell us about the essential 8 friendships that can influence a relationship and encourage growth.
So these are I'll start with the emotional friendship. And that's like when you're, comrades, that you can confide in each other, and you can, your person, that you got each other's back and feel safe.
The one
and
you want to tell when you have a hard day.
Exactly. The first person you want to call for most everything. Exactly. And then the second is your sexual and physical connection, your friendship there. And then the third is your recreational. Do you have fun together? Do you play well together? Do you go on trips well together? Can you laugh? Is there a good lot of laughter and joking and lightness? And then the fourth is your parenting, if you have children or pets. That, like, how do you navigate being parents? Are you on the same page? Are you in conflict? Do you compete? Do you support each other? The fourth is your domestic. And are you good roommates? Do you share responsibilities in a way that feels good? Do you talk about navigate the harmony in your life, home life together well? The next is your financial. Do you do your financial relationship well? Do you see yourselves as a we versus a mine and yours? Do you have any secrets? Are you open? Do you feel safe? Are you in line with your values and where you want to put your money? And then the next one is your spiritual friendship. And that is where that could also relate to values and your worldview and how you, live your life, and how you prioritize things in your life. But it also can be, do you share a similar sense of connecting to something bigger than yourself? And do you see a sense of purpose together in your relationship? And did I get all of them? Let's see.
And because I like that you broke them down. Go
Oh,
ahead. Oh, is there one left?
yeah, just
Okay.
one more. This is the one I've never heard anyone talk about that I just like, I'm sorry, I have to add this eighth one. And that is community. That, like your relationship also have your own separate relationship with how you relate to your extended family, your neighbors, even your own individual family you created creates a community. And it's different than all the other individual or other parts of your relationship. In fact, I see some couples stay together because they don't want to lose the community.
Absolutely. I've always surprised and a little delighted because it's just interesting when somebody says their family is so important to me. Yes,
Yeah.
you're right about that.
And it's a loss if it's a loss of that friendship you share together as being co-parents or as being like, you grew up together with your father-in-law or mother-in-law or whatever.
So, one of the things
So,
I liked in your book was that you had some questions to ask yourself when you pause before you leap into conflict. And I really think helping people build that pause, many people have brought that up on other podcast episodes because it's the kind of the thing right now, but it's such a good thing. What are some of the questions to ask ourselves so that we can keep that pause cooking and percolate a little with what's going on?
yes, it's wonderful. So the first question is, what is it that is going on inside of me? To really turn inward, look inward first. And what is this evoking in me? What does it make? What am I actually feeling? What is actually bothering me about this? What thoughts do I have about this? And really not judging them, just being curious. And then another question that's a good one. Anything that's inward focused are good questions. And then you can ask things like, does this remind me of something that I know I am that is a trigger for me?
Okay. Or unfinished
Does this feel
business.
exactly? Is this like how I felt growing up? Is this how I remember feeling in lots of relationships? Is this what I notice feeling when I get vulnerable? That this is my go-to kind of feeling. Is this something familiar and what I'm here to work on? That this may be something that I want to look at as I'm responsible for working on this part of myself. It doesn't mean you aren't going to address it with your, person, but. And then the other question I think is important to ask is, am I in a place right now where I really have a good perspective in order to address it yet? Or am I dysregulated emotionally? And am I seeing, along with that, my perspective is, am I seeing all the good things about my partner? Am I seeing all the good things about myself and our life together? Am I really in a good place, or am I, feeling a little off and skewed right now based on feeling emotionally vulnerable and not safe and overwhelmed in some
And what
way?
I like about the questions is it moves you from some of the emotional energy that makes you leap and blame and react to thinking and being a little more thoughtful, which is slowing all those
Mhm.
emotions down and trying to understand yourself better. So
Yeah.
I really like that a lot.
Yes. And then you move from what some people call like the downstairs part of the brain, that's like the reactive emotional part, up to the higher thinking part, like you said, thinking. And then you start to get more perspective. And, internal family systems talks about this, and the wisdom of Kabbalah talks about this, is connecting to your core self. The core self has perspective. The core self can think and feel at the
Yes,
same
the
time.
goal. Yes.
The goal. Exactly. That's what we're working towards. So the pause, but then the questions are it's taking responsibility for understanding yourself. And once you do, like you said earlier, it takes a lot of the power out of the emotion, just the knowing. And then, you can then approach your partner when the time is right. And you can even share what it is that I've learned about myself in this. and then share what it is that what I'm needing is and what's bothering me about this. And this would help me. This would help me with this feeling I tend to get.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. What are some of the disrespectful ways that we all communicate besides blaming, which we've covered?
Yes, there's actually there's an article that just came out that they took an excerpt, this CNBC, and CNBC Make It liked that section, and they made an excerpt out of that. Yeah. So the there's some people call it violent communication, but I chose the word disrespectful communication. But if you want to learn more about it, the things that like clean talk or nonviolent communication really goes into describing it more. That's where I drew from. But some of them are like turning it around and making it like their fault. Like, well, you should have told me sooner. All of a sudden, it's your fault for the way, that's one example. It's, things that are judging, like character assassinating, where you might say, oh, you're just do this. You're so selfish. You always do this. Versus really just saying that, when you do that, it doesn't make me feel good inside, So those are two that just came to mind as like really attacking the person's
Yes.
character.
That spins off of the negative narrative that we each can kind of secretly keep going or percolating inside of us and bring it out when we need ammunition, is how I think of it,
And I encourage people to look into it more because I think I list maybe like 9 or 10 different scenarios that I saw in myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, I do that. Like you one of those aha moments, like, oh my gosh, I'm doing that. That is not respectful. I don't want to be that person. So the third pillar. So that third pillar is priority, and that's where we make each other the most important other person in our life. And other person meaning besides our relationship with ourselves, because that's the baseline. And we make them feel special in a way that they know it. They know they're cherished. And they know that there isn't something that's going to get in between us, that it's solid. And this is my husband's pillar. This is the one he added when I had shared 3 of them. And he said, this is what really took our relationship to a whole new level when he knew that I was his number one. And that's our nickname. It's his nickname, it's our nickname for each other is number one.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Because I think we lose track of the couple so easily, and then they come to therapy and then we're sitting there and reminding them this is about the us. It's not about you or you, it's about the us.
Yes.
And teaching that how to think about that us, because it really is important.
Exactly.
And it's hard. Tell us about triangles and how they can impact priorities.
I love your questions. So I'm describing triangles as something that, and I think I list like 9 of them, that can become a wedge between you and your partner. So if you picture a triangle where you become more aligned with something or someone else, that then makes you kind of on the outside of that connection. And it can be another person. It can be that you turn to your mother still and you don't turn to your partner. It can be your children can be a wedge, that you making them more of a priority and neglecting the relationship. It can be an addiction. It can be people pleasing, because then you already got your partner, but you still want to make sure that the neighbor doesn't think bad of you at the expense of your partner. It can be your in-laws, your own parents, that you don't choose, that a spouse can feel like they're less important than their in-laws to you. It can be work. It can be a hobby. It can be a spiritual path that you just suddenly get excited about, and then you can make your partner feel like that they're not important anymore.
Yeah. So tell us about the 4th pillar.
The 4th pillar is the least commonly talked about pillar. And this is the one that when we started studying with the Kabbalah Center, this is the thing that really helped me always get at what I wanted to do, which is to be a stronger force of doing good in the world. But I just kept finding all these roadblocks and laziness and just excuses. And when this became so clear that we're here to share And that's the source of fulfillment. In fact, I think I have on my shelf right here, The Secret, which is, this is the book that, it's a different secret than the one that, people can't see it. But
It's a different book than
it's a different secret that came out earlier,
Yeah.
actually, but by Michael Berg, that talks about the secret is that we were here to become beings to receive for the sake of sharing. And then when we're sharing, that's when all the magic happens. And that's when we start to feel really fulfilled. So, and it also helps to bring energy. We're like generating electricity. We're electricity generators. And as we are generating energy by giving, especially with a full heart and not with another agenda, but other than just the care, then that energy helps support us in quantum ways in our life. It feels fulfilling, but it also starts to support us on our path, that we're protected. We get put back on path if we go off path. And it also really helps the relationship take on a different sweetness and a different level of joy. The science supports it too. There's research that altruism helps you feel more attracted to your partner, because you see what a kind person. I was out to dinner with some friends last night, and she said she knew she was going to marry her husband because he went out of his way for her dog, who was scared of the thunder, and he was making a tent for her dog. She's like, that's when I knew, So purpose, though, is really a harder thing to make as a priority because we do have so much responsibility in life.
That's true.
But it's not about devoting all of your time to thinking about how you can be more of a positive force for the world. It's just a percentage of your time, just some of your extra time. But you also have purpose in your relationship by working on growing closer. That adds value to the world, and it adds value to your family. Investing in your family and making a really healthy family environment that grows children or pets or anyone that thrive and that are a contribution to the world, that also is purpose. And same with contributing to your community. But what really goes farther to take advantage of the idea of purpose is when the two of you come together for the sake of something that is really beyond the scope of your collective.
So, where can remind my audience about the title of your book and the subtitle that I enjoyed so much, and where they might reach your website?
So the title is A Soulful Marriage, Healing and also Thriving, improving your relationship. But the book title is Healing Your Relationship Through Responsibility, Growth, Priority, and Purpose. And you can find it, my website has 5 different options where copies are sold. And the website is Dr. Rachel Glick, drrachelglik.com. And, it's Amazon, Barnes & Noble, a local place, Left Bank Books, Glick's. So there's several choices. And I think it's on sale right now. I don't know when this is going to be airing, but Amazon has put it on sale at the moment. So that's good.
Yes, it is. At the end of the day, love isn't just about finding the right person. It's about becoming the right person together. Keep investing in your relationship, keep showing up, and keep growing. Until next time, take care and love intentionally. You can find me on all social media at Rhoda on Couples, and my children's book, Dancing with Your Lizard Brain, is for sale on Amazon. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for listening to What Healthy Couples Know That You Don't. If you have enjoyed the show, please leave a rating and review on iTunes and help get the word out. To learn more or connect with Rhoda, visit therapyideas.net.